Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm incredibly grateful to be surrounded by such strong community leaders, movers, and shakers, and we are all here today for the same reason, for our children and their future. My name is Rena Hicks, and I am the Executive Director of Freedom Virginia, an advocacy organization committed to building a commonwealth where all Virginia families have the freedom to thrive through smart economic policies. As soon as the end of the month, our legislators will make a simple choice: adopt the Senate budget and give an additional $1 billion to our schools, or adopt the House budget, which contains $1 billion in tax cuts, mostly for corporations and the rich. Unfortunately, Governor Youngkin and some of our local General Assembly members, like Senator Donovan, are choosing to prioritize corporate handouts over fully funding our public schools. As a mother myself, the fact that our representatives would rather give their political donors a tax handout than make sure my son's school has the textbooks, infrastructure, and staff they need is horrific. We are here today to call on legislators to adopt the Senate budget, which has a fair approach to taxes, will raise teacher pay, and provide extra funding for support staff positions, including guidance counselors and other mental health support for our students. First, you will hear from Senator Lamont Bagby, Chair of the Legislative Black Caucus and former school board member and educator.
Good evening. Good morning. I'm rushing today. I'm trying to get to election day. Thank you all for, thank you first to the Virginia Education Association, to Virginia, this happened the last time, to Virginia Education Association and Freedom Virginia for putting this together. You mentioned I'm a former school board member. We used to have our school board meetings in that building right there. Oh, the building's gone now. But we used to have a school board meetings right there. And what we're talking about is what we were talking about when we were in that building there. And when I was a school board member, for a better half of that time, Bob McDonnell was the governor. And I wish Governor Youngkin would have a conversation with Bob McDonnell about tough economic times. Because Governor Youngkin came in at a time where we had record surpluses and revenue coming in the door. The reason why we had record surpluses and revenue coming in through the door is because we had the majority in the House and the Senate, and we had Ralph Northam as governor. And we were fiscally responsible. Democrats were fiscally responsible. And we didn't spend down every dime because we wanted to make sure we were prepared for a rainy day. The rainy day fund that Governor Wilder created. And so we put record numbers of funding in the rainy day. We increased the salary of teachers. But then we said, let's wait and see what this pandemic, what comes about with this pandemic. And lo and behold, we had more resources from the federal government, President Biden, another Democrat. And so what we have is a lot of resources ready to support what we believe are our priorities. And what our priorities start with is always going to be public education. It's always going to have health care and housing. And what we have right now is also a challenge with behavioral health, mental health, and other health care services. And so our budget in the Senate reflects that. Our budget doesn't go to millionaires and billionaires. Our funding goes to those individuals that need the support the most. Our teachers, our police officers. That's where our funding is going. We also have an opportunity to make record investments as it relates to one-time fund. Those funds that aren't reoccurring. But, again, the number is $1 billion. That's what separates our budget from the governor's budget. And the governor's budget governor has started this new game. Let's wait until after the election to get a budget. I wasn't with that from the beginning, and I'm not with that now. What we should have had is we should have had a budget when we usually have a budget back in April, and then we would go to the polls and defend our action. And our action would have been supporting, funding our priorities. And you're going to hear a lot about that from the individuals behind me, supporting and funding our priorities. You will learn a lot about a person by how they spend their money. And so we're seeing how Governor Youngkin intends to spend the hard working Virginians' money. He wants to give it back to his buddies, millionaires and billionaires, and the lion's share to corporations who, by the way, aren't even asking for it. They're moving here and they're giving us record numbers. They're giving us the highest ratings. As you all know, we were named the best state for business 3 years in a row. And now, on top of that, you're going to give them record number of tax rebates and the Commonwealth money. That's not what we should be doing. And we're going to fight Governor Youngkin and the Republicans tooth and nail to make sure that doesn't happen. We have a number of individuals behind me speaking. The first one I think is best. And so this is a parent from Henrico County that is want to come and make his voice heard.
Thank you so much, Senator Bagby. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Madison Irving. I'm a teacher and department chair at James River High School, as well as a parent of a future HCPS student. As a parent and teacher, I know the importance of Virginia's budget and how it can directly affect the students in my classroom. My students are smart and intellectually curious, and each one deserves the resources and attention to thrive. Extra investment in K-12 schools isn't just a number. It means more counselors and learning specialists to support my students, helping them succeed. My hope is that Democrats and Republicans in the House of Delegates will choose to prioritize my students over corporate donors. We should all be coming together to pass common sense legislation that will benefit all students, such as, but not limited to, Delegate Van Valkenburg's House Bill 1967, which provides free meals to all students regardless of their background. We should be prioritizing not only student mental well-being, but physical well-being as well. I hope these legislators will choose to invest in our children rather than give tax breaks to large corporations and the richest Virginians. As a teacher and a parent, all I want for my students is to reach their full potential. The state budget proposal gives our communities a historic boost in state funding, along with additional strong investments in healthcare, higher education, and much more. But there can be no greater investment in a community than in schools. Schools are the cornerstone of our neighborhoods, which they set our children on the right path towards bright futures. They're the foundation of success to building intergenerational wealth for our families and to solving the world's greatest challenges. These children are our future doctors, scientists, engineers, artists, writers, legislators, and even educators. An investment in them is an investment in our future. Thank you for your time. Next up, we're going to have Virginia Education Association Representative Daryl Turner.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Daryl Turner. I am a preschool inclusion teacher, the proud vice president of the Richmond Education Association, and this morning I'm here to fight for the educators and our students. As lawmakers continue to negotiate updates to the state budget, the main area of disagreement is whether lawmakers should use available resources to make a new $1 billion investment in our public schools, or to appease corporate interests and millionaires with a $1 billion tax giveaway. Let's be very clear, this should not be a difficult decision. For far too long, public schools have been underfunded and understaffed. I can tell you, as a teacher in the inner city, I have worked in many schools where many times we're going in our own pockets to provide resources for our children. Sometimes our buildings are falling apart. And let me tell you all a brief story. I had a little boy, which his name is C, and C was nonverbal. Now, as a teacher that works with students with special needs, when I heard him speak for the first time, I got excited because I thought this young man had an epiphany. But he wasn't having an epiphany or, a special moment there. He was speaking because he was scared. So during nap time, this young man came up to me. He said, Mr. Turner, he was frightened. And the reason why he was frightened was because a mouse ran over his nap mat and woke him up. Situations like this, and also having ceiling tiles that are falling apart and mold, on our ceilings are one of the reasons why we need this $1 billion investment. It should never be a decision whether we give an incentive to rich corporations or invest in the children in our great Commonwealth, because when we invest in them, we are investing in the state's future. Because as an educator, I want everyone to know that my working conditions are your children's learning conditions. And if we say that we are strong advocates and we value public education, let us start by investing that $1 billion into our schools so that students like C will never have to wake up to find there's a mouse in his room or that buildings are falling apart. You know, that leaves critical resources on the table in places. Higher tax burden on low and middle income families. So instead, let's ask millionaires and large corporations to pay their fair share of taxes. Governor Youngkin and Republicans want to give them additional tax giveaways to a point where corporations would pay lower tax rates than myself. You know, a middle class, working teacher. Lawmakers haven't even fully fixed the recent $201 million error that Governor Youngkin's Department of Education made, leaving school districts across Virginia with less resources than they initially planned to receive from the state. We absolutely cannot approve this tax scheme for the wealthy when our schools are being asked to do more with less resources. That is why we need the Senate's proposal to be approved. Their budget would make a much-needed investment in the students of Richmond and Virginia and educators by providing them an additional $18.2 million in state funding for our schools. That would help fund support staff. Because let's be honest, teachers, we don't do it by ourselves. Our support staff are critical to making our schools run. So I'm proud today to join with the lawmakers and advocates here to call on budget negotiators to make the right choice, which is to invest in our students and fund our schools. And I would like to introduce my school board representative.